Firstly, Stadio offer the LISOF brand the opportunity to become part of a big comprehensive institution. Right, that's the first view. And it will also create the opportunity for LISOF to extend its footprint. Why do I say that? We can take the LISOF school, the fashion school, and we can link it into many different campuses and buildings. So we make your offering available to so many students that in the past we didn't have. So we get that opportunity to do that at this stage.
Yeah, I think that's of value, because that means you also give the graduate an opportunity in the industry in whichever city that he or she lives in, because there's recognition of that school being there everywhere, and that's the difference. So that, I think that's of huge value.
Yeah, and Stadio's new vision in higher education must incorporate what I call the WWS, the widening access, meaning we should accommodate a student who wants to do full-time learning, contact learning, old traditional contact learning. But we're going to spice it up with a new innovative way of offering it. We have to cater for the distance learner, and we have to cater for a student that prefers an online offering. So all of that, you know, we will bring into the offering and add to the value proposition of Stadio in comparison with just one of the single brands.
Yes, I think that kind of opens up the conversation that we need to go down, and it is about how Stadio is going to use these individual brands to kind of make an impact in South Africa. And I think that's what we're all kind of very passionate about. And what I've always realized in my career is the moment you evolve with education, you have to have a passion for it, because it's one of the few kind of careers that you enter where you do it for the money or for the recognition. You do it because you have a passion for students, and kind of allow people to kind of think outside of what they used to kind of envision a new future for themselves. So our kind of role as educators is just to kind of empower these students to kind of become who they're able to. With Stadio's emphasis on widening education has become also very real, and I think it's going to fill a gap in the market where we'll be able to kind of provide quality education to a wider audience. And I think that's always been the problem. One of the public universities, because there's a huge criticism of the quality of the education, but then also the critique about privates has been elitist. So to find that balance is going to be an interesting thing. And I think what Stadio is trying to do is to find that balance, where we know our offering is good and we know it's relevant, and we're able to kind of allow students to kind of think beyond what they assumed was possible in their lives, to kind of create this new vision. And I think that's why, you know, Shana, why you started the school originally. I mean, it does come from a very personal space where you do want to help people. And to see that now being rolled out to entire country, and maybe even to like a region like the SADC region, I think is something very exciting to be involved in. I think, Chris, that's what I mean, what I picked up from our kind of conversations is what you're passionate about when it comes to education.
Yep. You're right, you have to be passionate, and because if it's at the heart of really wanting to empower, and that whole sense of I can reimagine my world. I mean, this is my dream, and I'm going on, you know, out and after it. And there's a way to realize that. And this is the vehicle. Then I think we're on track. We're on track with what we've always really wanted, as you say, with the widening access and there being opportunities across the nation. I think that's extraordinary. I mean, it just doesn't really exist anywhere else.
For South Africa.
Yes, yeah. It doesn't exist anywhere here in this country.
Yes, definitely, Shana. I think from a Stadio point of view, if we look from Stadio's side, Stadio wants to bring this new vision in higher education. And how can we do that? So we went along and we said, okay, let's buy the different brands that we think will make up a new, attractive, exciting institution. By doing that, we have now created LISOF in the fashion industry. We have SBS with the distance learning, commerce and law. We have Embry with education, and then Prestige with arts, design, and also commerce. We now have we created the situation where we can really become an institution for the whole family. Now, what do I mean by that? If I look at the SBS brand on its own, that brand spoke to mum and dad, actually. These were working individuals already far up in their careers. Now they do a next qualification, a degree or a postgraduate degree, in order for them to get promotion in the workplace. And Embry catered only for the education students. But now we put all these students together and we can create a real comprehensive institution, meaning mom and dad can do their postgraduates right up to doctorate. Son and daughter can enter Stadio. One can do fashion, the other one can do accounting. And so we create a real comprehensive institution. And we're going to create loyalty wider than just to the one school or the just one faculty. We really become an institution for the whole family. And that's what makes me excited about it. We can now really become a WITS of the future, or a Stellenbosch University of the future, where the whole family will, you know, actually be part of one institution and not scattered between the different brands. We can cater for all of them.
I think what's important there also is what we Stadio will be able to do is allow you different entry points into tertiary education. So you might be as somebody that might be working, and you can afford now, you know, financially and with your time, might be a short learning program. We might be able to allow you into a short learning program, which will at a later stage allow you to a certificate, maybe to articulate into a degree. But it also is great about the merger of these different entities is that there's opportunity for multidisciplinary education, which I think is something that, I mean, what LISOF is very proud of, is they've brought in that sense of entrepreneurship through different subjects in the finances. But there's also other opportunities where a student at a third year level, let's say they might be interested in something like 3D design, they might now have the opportunity to do it at one of the other subsidiaries. So the way we can put degrees together is going to expand to, you know, to the limits of our imagination. I think we've got a responsibility to also kind of look at these future, you know, roles that are going to open up, and that's what we spoke about earlier. This future world of work is what do students need to do? What does industry want from us in terms of graduates? And what are we as educators? How are we going to put those degrees together? We, for a long time, we've been speaking about tech that's going to become more available, and there's going to be emphasis on workers to kind of be able to kind of engage with tech, but how do we put that degree together to ultimately make them more attractive to industry? And that's, we might be able to work to go well with Prestige, to make sure that we leverage off each other's kind of strengths. But in the same way, other kind of schools will be starting looking at us. And I think that's what I've also realized is there's huge value in what LISOF offers to a wider audience beyond fashion. This is not a conversation about fashion itself. It's a conversation about trends and are you able to kind of forecast the future. And it's a creative ability that you have. There's a problem solving you have. So I think we also need to give ourselves credit, but also narrate that new narrative around what do we offer for a potential student. And ultimately, these students will be, graduates of Stadio would be, super proud of that.
I think that's a key point, is bringing, and something that I'm personally very passionate about, is bringing innovation thinking to every single qualification on offer. Is something that we are, that we as LISOF can look at from a completely different perspective in all of these subsidiaries and all of the different qualifications, and how can innovative thinking change your position and present you as a problem solver, as a critical thinker. And I think that's of huge value. And that's where I think there's an opportunity for us to create magic in that. And that is the dream. That is the dream, you as a learner, to be that empowered is huge.
And even with something like design thinking and innovation, there's a methodology behind it. And I think a lot of people have not known about the methodology. We've spoken about design thinking. We assume, we must teach you to solve problems. How do you teach somebody to solve problems? And I think that's where LISOF and I think a bunch of other schools have they've got that methodology. It's now just to figure out how you're going to roll that out to a bigger kind of cohort of people. Because if you've got that ability, it doesn't matter what kind of job you have.
Really doesn't.
It's the skill that you would need in the future.
And to your point, there is a way. There obviously there's several different methodologies in innovation thinking. But and I think as a LISOF, why I would say we were always maybe always ahead of our game in a sense, is because we've always pushed those boundaries. Let's go where no one else dares tread. Let's just do it. Because out of it, something is going to come out of this that we can learn from. I mean, there's really nothing wrong with failing. Failing is probably the best way to learn a new skill. So if you fail at something, it only gives you an opportunity to look differently at what it is that you've done and be able to import all of that to what you're going to do in the future. And I think that's of huge value.
It also says something about you as a person, because you're willing to take risks.
Yeah.
I mean, we all, like, and I think again in our current state, we all know what the opportunities are. The ones that are willing to take the risk, and again that also comes back to innovation. For us to innovate in our space now, we can't incrementally innovate. We can't say, okay, we're going to do it a little bit better or a little bit different and see if we can outsmart the competition. It has to be a leap. Yeah. And for us to take that leap, you're going to have to take a risk.
Yeah. And conviction. Have conviction. Believe in what you do. Believe in what you do, because you know what, you can't fudge that. So if there's integrity in it, it's real. And that's what we want to see. We want to see that transcend, not just in a LISOF space, but we want to be part of that growing and grow together, do this together. I love that. I think that's where, that's where the challenges are. The challenges are great. Challenges are enlightening and they're empowering. And that's visionary. That's truly visionary.
But it also comes from a really strong base. I mean, creativity, and I think there's always been a stigma around creativity that it's for an elite few. And if you're not creative, you can't be creative. But I think that notion is actually absurd.
That's gone.
But if you know how to teach somebody to be creative, I think that's where the key skill is going on. I think that's our kind of responsibility almost, is to kind of teach people the skill of being creative.
And I think that's what we've started to do, is to really unpack the how. Because, you know, it's always very easy to go and speak and just say it, but to implement is a very different sensibility altogether. To be able to know what are the key skills that you need in order to analyze a certain problem so that you can potentially come up with solutions. And I think that's what we've started to implement in our, well, not started, I think that's what makes us NASA. Is that, to Leo's point, we just do go out there. And we are we're not risk averse. Put it that way. I've never really been a risk averse person. And, you know, I think we pride ourselves on that. If we're going out there, we're going to try something, because at the end of it, there's a high reward, you know? So the return on that investment is real, big.
I think it's also very important what you've said, Shana, is that jumps out to me is that the faculties and the schools should have autonomy to enter into new possibilities and to actually live that innovative and creativity that is generated in that faculty, to actually create structure and the platform for you to go and develop it and you know, get your students to participate in that new thinking.
And you know, the thing is, Chris, and I mean, even now I've gone all the way back to teaching, and the reason I took on the is because it's in a new space, it's online, and I really wanted to see how real is what I'm saying. Can I actually, you know, really go out there, you know, eat my words, but is it real? Is there an opportunity to go back and really look at the way you used to do something, and now an opportunity to re-look at it, completely reframed, and see how you can be good, in fact, not even good, great at being a solution for that particular problem. And I must say, I am really enjoying this very new space, creating all this content in a very, as I said, a completely different platform. But in it, there is this learning. And if we can constantly learn and teach at the same pace, then you're growing. You know, teachers and educators also need to learn. They need to be constantly growing and going at the same, literally at the same pace as their learners. Then you've got something that is really substantial, because it's relevant. Because you, as an educator, are constantly asking questions, because the world is moving at such a fast pace. And if you're moving with it, then you're learning. You have to be learning, because that's real. So if our educators are continuously pushing boundaries and looking for new ways and interrogating and investigating, you know, the way this new world is moving, and we're moving with it, then we're great. So to Jim Collins, good to great, isn't it? I think that's us. I think we're great. I think we have an opportunity to get there, and we need to just keep driving forward.
So I think once we've got the vision down, and we know how it's rolling out, and we know our strengths, there's an element of student centeredness, and I think you touched on it earlier, Chris, which is becoming more and more evident and very important, especially in a South African context. What we've got in our favour as a private education institute is we've got smaller classes, so we're able to kind of engage with our students one-on-one and help them through this. Especially in the time we're in, I think we all kind of becoming more and more aware of it, how difficult it is to learn, to kind of keep concentration, to ensure your mental well-being. And I mean, Chris, you said that student wellness is going to be an important factor of what wants to ensure for the students. I know that from our side, we're doing a lot for lots of students. It'd be interesting to also kind of just maybe get an idea from you. How do you see us building a structure for students to kind of function in? What do we need to do from our side? And what is your vision for something like that?
Yes, I think you know, when we actually going to become one, Stadio will be a very big provider. We talk about 30,000 plus students that we will have in this higher education institution. When you have, and we will have up to, what, 900 and something staff members, so it makes it a comprehensive institution. For us to start this new institution, we firstly have to look after the values of the different had so far. So that is a non-negotiable. Those values will be intact, and we will look after those students and how they got to where they are now. Going forward, because we're so big, we have to identify 3 or 4 fundamentals that we will focus on as a big comprehensive institution. And the 3 things that we're going to focus on is what I call the WWS. That's the, firstly, widening access to learners. Secondly, bringing in the world of work, making sure our students are linked to industry and that they are relevant. I think Shana mentioned that. I can't stress that more. They should be relevant, because if they're relevant, they will be employable. And then thirdly, it's the whole thing of student-centeredness, giving student support, putting the student in the position to actually complete the program successfully. And then in this fast-paced world, definitely there's an obligation on us to make sure that we look after our students and that we have a wellness program that will look after our students. So those would be the 3 fundamentals that this big new institution will function from. WWS, widening access, work, and student-centeredness.
I like that.
And the 3 all play to each other's strengths to a certain degree, because I mean, if you really think about student wellness and student experience, we've got again, obligation to make sure that the content is relevant, that we do empower them to get jobs. I think what was also become evident over the last couple of years is that we're graduating students with the wrong qualifications. That's why we need to interrogate that again. And I think if that's our basis and that's the values that we kind of wake up with every morning, our intent will always be pure, and the result will always be one that's in favor of the students.
That's the value proposition, WWS.
That is the value.
He said that's the value proposition.
Yes.
That really
we need to create a logo on that.
That is the value proposition.
But you know what? That's your value proposition. That says it in a nutshell. You know, is the of
And Shana, I said to Leo earlier, we have to live that.
No,
if we say access, we must show how we're going to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't say we're going to widen access, but your prices are so high, nobody can afford it, and you have no option on terms or assisting them in making it affordable to them. So we really think and live these things.
Yeah.
What makes me also very excited, and speaking to different students in different faculties, the opportunity to take electives from other faculties. So what do I mean by that? I'm doing a BCom accounting. Now I've got 4 electives in my program. I can now venture into the Faculty of Arts and Design and do an elective there. You won't believe how many students would love to do that. I had such a good conversation with students doing their bachelor's in policing, And I said that in future, you might have the opportunity to do a module in photography or even in filmmaking. They were over the moon. They said that's exactly what they would like to do. So this big new Stadio with all the different faculties give us all that opportunity to take your electives and tell the student you can do it outside the current faculty.
That's amazing.
Because that's what new education also wants. Not to put us in a silo. An accountant should only do accountant-driven modules. No, an accountant is a human being wanting to explore, do more things, and therefore those electives will give you that opportunity.
And again, we realize that people are changing careers, 2 or 3 times during their lifetime now. There's a new generation of learners and that ultimately become employees that don't necessarily see these lines as that in the sand necessarily. Like you might after 10 years decide I want to do something else. And by allowing students now to kind of get access to that exposure, I mean, then at a later stage they might be able to do postgraduate degree in something else. So we're allowing again a student to kind of develop, and that's again our responsibility is to allow a student to develop. Like we need you to kind of have all of these options available to you to become like a more of a holistic kind of
and a more of you. I mean, think about the fact that at a young age, students they now think what I want to do for the rest of my life. It is such a difficult ask.
Yes.
It is almost impossible. I mean, there are those who, wake up and kind of like from they've always wanted to dress dolls and be designers, and so somebody wanting to be a doctor or whatever. The majority, I go as far as to say, aren't 100% sure. So if you're giving them a taste of the different programs that are available, then you are broadening way beyond anybody else, where you are broadening this their opportunity to look into other faculties, other industries. Huge. That's immense. I mean, there's an unbelievable opportunity to explore totally, as you say, beyond those boundaries, beyond those silos. Can't think anymore. That's innovative, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Also, when you start thinking about diversity to a certain degree, I think we've also kind of always put people into different kind of silos. We need to move beyond that. I think once you kind of allow people to kind of get exposure to different kind of people and it just kind of creates a human that's slightly more aware.
Real.
Human.
Yeah, 100%. Real. This is what's happening. That's touching again on the relevancy. And when you say, Chris, you've got to believe it, you've got to be it, without a doubt. You have to inculcate all of that into your mode of operating. That's what it is. It's how we work. I think it's
our values.
That's your values. The WWS is.
Yeah,
it's it. I mean, that's our byline. You need to capitalize.
Definitely.
You need to go out there. WWS campaign. I'm on your page. I love that.
Definitely. That's what we're going to push through the business execs also to get to all the faculties. That's exactly what we want to do. Just something to share, my daughter, she's an economist. She did a master's in economics. And I tested this with her and I said, if you could go back to university and I tell you that in your faculty of business in economics, you will be allowed to do 2 or 3 modules in fashion. Would you think that's something to do? And she said, all the female master students in economics will all take up that challenge. So it just shows you.
Absolutely.
It's a new thinking. That's what students want to see. They want to feel different. And we need to create, or we have the opportunity now to create that feel, to really say we have a new vision for
exactly, Chris, because they're being heard.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, we're listening. We are
Yes,
really listening. Because if you're
yes,
doing that, then you understand your audience. Your audience isn't, I mean,
yes,
isn't me anymore, you know? I mean, in my day, there were the 4 pillars of professions, and that was it. You were either one or the other, the end. Today, the world is just not that. And we have to know that, which, you know, if this is our value proposition, then we understand you. That's what we're saying. We're saying to the learner today, we get you, we hear you, we understand you. And those are uncharted, that's uncharted territory that I can't wait to explore. Yeah, good on Stadio.
Yes.
And that was, you know, one of the reasons I'm so excited to be part of this incredible opportunity, because that's what it is. It's been part of game changing. That is so empowering when you can turn around and say, I've really created something for the learner of today. WWS.
And I think I think is something that we can all kind of need to take note of is this is it's a vision for the future, but it's something that's closer than we expect. I mean, Chris, we're rolling out from August. The 1st of August becomes Stadio. There'll be slight changes and nothing you know, major that will disrupt the market to a certain extent. But I think what's making this very relevant to all of us is this future is here.
The future is here. And it's exciting. And you know, this message is so strong. Got to get, you know, for me, we've got to get this message out. It's so strong.
And our audience
so
is desperate for something new and different.
Yeah.
And the timing is right.
Great.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Dankie julle twee slim mense.